Hurricanes are the most destructive weather systems that develop on our planet, and in recent years they've begun to develop more frequently, something that's thought to be a result of climate change. On average, 10 significant hurricanes form every year, which can result in hundreds of deaths and billions of dollars worth of damage. The fortunate thing is while the winds within a hurricane reach incredible speeds, the storms themselves move quite slowly, so it's possible to predict their path and take adequate precautions. Otherwise, the casualty figures would be far higher. Hurricanes can swell up to cover huge areas, so their sphere of influence is far greater than your average storm. You might think they can grow to become 100, 500, or even 1,000 miles across. Well, the frightening truth is that they can get even bigger than this. But to fully explain what's happening, we must first understand the basics behind their formation. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Deep Thought. Let us know in the comments below which hurricane was the scariest. To understand their size, strength, and potential danger, it's important first to understand where hurricanes occur and why. They begin life as tropical cyclones, which develop in three main places in the world: the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Indian Ocean. When a tropical cyclone forms in the Atlantic or northeastern Pacific Ocean, the increasingly powerful weather system is called a hurricane, whereas ones that occur elsewhere in the Pacific or Indian Oceans are known as typhoons. Tropical cyclones form over large bodies of water where, due to rising temperatures, the surface water evaporates and recondenses into clouds. Because this happens at such a fast rate, the clouds begin to rotate, sucking up more warm water in the process. The storm begins to grow bigger and bigger. And this brings us to the fundamental question: just how big can a hurricane become? The answer is reliant on how much energy the storm is able to accumulate while it passes over the ocean. The smallest hurricanes are around 60 miles across, and the largest are supersized to more than 1,250 miles across, which is bigger than the state of Texas. Once they hit land, their source of energy is limited and the storm begins to weaken, but not before they devastate everything in their path. Hurricanes bring with them powerful winds, torrential rain, storm surges, high waves, and can occasionally spawn tornadoes too. Usually, hurricanes form in the Atlantic, pass over the Caribbean, where they gain more and more power. Eventually, they make landfall in either North or Central America. Hurricanes can, however, travel in the opposite direction towards Africa, or form in the Pacific and strike the west coast of America. But these hurricanes are far less common. The strength of these storms is measured on the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale, where a Category 1 is the weakest, with winds of up to 95 miles per hour, and a Category 5 is the strongest, with wind speeds of more than 157 miles per hour. Not all tropical cyclones develop into full-fledged hurricanes, and very few of them reach the top of the scale. In fact, there have only been 14 Category 5 hurricanes since the year 2000, and most of them only reached that level for a matter of hours. The danger faced by a hurricane isn't just related to its strength. A Category 5 can hit a sparsely populated region and cause little damage at all, whereas a Category 3 could hit a city and cause widespread devastation. The focus of storm tracking and preparation, therefore, focuses more on a hurricane's projected path rather than its severity. But it goes without saying that a Category 5 storm making landfall in a densely populated area is the absolute worst-case scenario. Now that we know how they form, let's take a look at the different categories of hurricane and how powerful they really are. Usually, tropical cyclones don't upgrade to hurricanes, and an estimated average of 80 of them form around the world each year. They have winds of up to 74 miles per hour, which can dislodge tiles, snap small branches from trees, and cause cosmetic damage to buildings. But it's mainly the huge amount of rain that's the main problem. They can cause flooding in low-lying areas, and certainly have to be avoided by ships and planes in the area. But generally, they are seen as manageable and, particularly in the Caribbean, are seen as normal weather systems to deal with. Category 1 hurricanes are defined as those with wind speeds between 74 and 95 miles per hour, and is the stage at which a tropical cyclone becomes potentially deadly. Communities hit by a Category 1 can expect torrential rainfall and winds that are strong enough to damage the roofs and gutters of well-constructed homes, as well as causing damage to power lines that can leave entire regions without electricity for several days. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy, which would go on to become far more powerful, first made landfall in Jamaica as a Category 1 storm. It left almost 3/4 of the island's residents without power, blew entire roofs off of buildings, and killed one person who was struck by falling debris. The overall cost of the damage was estimated to be around $100 million in Jamaica alone, which is a significant amount for what is considered to be the weakest type of hurricane. When the wind speeds within a hurricane reach between 96 and 110 miles per hour, they are classified as a Category 2, as they are considered to be much more dangerous than a Category 1. When one of these hurricanes makes landfall, you can expect to see major damage to the roofs of the most sturdy buildings and the complete destruction of mobile homes, as well as snapped or uprooted trees, widespread power failures, and a significant risk to life. When Hurricane Frances struck Florida in 2004, it was a Category 2 hurricane, but in an example of how timing and direction significantly affects the devastation, it just so happened to make landfall just a few weeks after a more powerful storm. With a population still recovering, Hurricane Frances tore through the state and dropped 18 inches of rain. It caused extensive damage to the Vehicle Assembly Building at the Kennedy Space Center, causing $100 million worth of destruction to space and military facilities alone, and even forced Disney World to close, only the third time it had ever done so as a result of a hurricane. Frances and the previous storm caused more than $2 billion worth of harm to the state of Florida by the time it had dissipated, which made it, at the time, one of the costliest storms ever to hit the state. Category 3 hurricanes, with wind speeds of between 111 and 129 miles per hour, are the first to be considered as major storms, as they can cause devastating damage. When they make landfall in a populated area, they will rip roofs off houses, destroy less sturdy buildings, and uproot all but the strongest of trees, which pose a risk to life, and will almost certainly block roads and cut power and water supplies. One of the most devastating hurricanes of recent times, Hurricane Katrina, was a Category 3 when it made landfall in Louisiana in August of 2005. With wind speeds of around 125 miles per hour, a huge storm surge was whipped up that the defenses, particularly around New Orleans, couldn't protect against. This led to an overwhelming influx of water into the city, which left 80% of it submerged, killing at least 250 people, stranding tens of thousands more, and leaving such destruction that its effects can still be seen across the city to this day. As a result of Katrina, flood and storm defenses across the US were upgraded because it served as proof that even a supposed weaker storm can be catastrophic if it hits a vulnerable region. With wind speeds of between 130 and 156 miles per hour, Category 4 hurricanes pose a serious threat to life, and the general advice is that anyone in the path of one of these storms should evacuate, because not only will they have to endure an incredibly powerful storm, but In all likeliness, it can be weeks until rescue services can offer assistance to survivors. A storm like this will destroy virtually all temporary structures, cause severe damage to the higher floors of apartment buildings, blow out windows that haven't been boarded up, and interfere with water and power supplies to such an extent that it can be many months until they are restored. In August of 2017, Hurricane Harvey was a Category 4 when it made landfall in Texas and Louisiana and is one of the costliest storms on record, causing an estimated $125 billion worth of damage, which is more than the annual GDP of Kuwait. Over a period of 4 days, regions hit by the storm received over 40 inches of rain, which displaced more than 30,000 people, with 17,000 of them needing to be rescued by emergency services. The most powerful hurricanes are classified as Category 5, and they have winds that reach speeds of more than 157 miles per hour. Any area that the storm passes over will inevitably experience catastrophic damage, with only the strongest of buildings surviving the onslaught. In the hardest hit areas, it may be many months until it's even possible for people to return, and when they do, their homes will be barely recognizable. Fortunately, the chances of a Category 5 making landfall are incredibly rare, and only 3 have done so since 1924. The most recent was Hurricane Michael, which struck Florida in 2018, and it caused an estimated $18.4 billion worth of damage in that one state alone. Most of this was property and infrastructure, but also included more than 2.8 million acres of forest land that was obliterated and countless losses of livestock and crops. 7 people died directly as a result of the hurricane, including 5 who drowned in the storm surges. But a further 43 deaths were attributed to the after effects due to the instability of any structures that had remained standing. What do you think about hurricanes? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Deep Thought. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.